Hi, my name is Nathan. Today I will be talking to you guys. I'm giving you guys a little introduction to my lesson plan. My lesson plan I chose to do was gang culture. Basically gang culture in Toronto. Uh, Gang culture in Toronto, like there's always been gang culture in Toronto. Although Toronto does have its faults, I want to just address a little bit of the good things about Toronto. There are plenty of job opportunities to begin with, sights to see, a lot of large job opportunities, and like huge diversity. So like there's a bunch of like there's a lot of multicultural. There's like plenty of religions, plenty of just different people. A lot of people like it's really a comfortable place to live in. In my presentation, I'll be focusing on ways to help the gang culture in Toronto, and the history mostly. Gang culture is currently growing in the Toronto area, with increasingly large numbers of the youth joining gangs, usually possessing firearms or imitation firearms and knives, either used for protection against other gangs or for image. Um, Gangs in Canada are mostly located in the major urban areas of Canada, of Toronto, sorry. Although their activities are not confined to large cities, there are all types of different gangs, but the most that stand out to people across Toronto are street gangs, obviously. Street gangs, outlaw motorcycle gangs, um, more organized crime like gangs and mafias, and including like Aboriginal and even East African organized crime. The Aboriginal street gangs are noted as being the most violent gangs in Toronto to the present day. The Hells Angels are some of the most notorious gangs in Toronto that is growing at a large population, along with being the most powerful group in the general area. Although studies have proven that Aboriginal gangs are currently are actually less organized, they're also some of the more violent gangs that we have in the general area. Um, as of 2005, it has been proven that at least 1,000 youths have been introduced and entered into street gangs. Triads and Asian gangs are also part of Toronto gangs. It has been reported from CISC. The Hong Kong triad groups are the most well financed and has the biggest long term threat to Canadian law enforcement. With Toronto being such a great place to live, unfortunately for troubled youth that have not been privileged in life, have been introduced to gang culture. So basically, a lot a lot of them don't really actually have like they just weren't really privileged. Like they didn't have like maybe they just didn't grow up with a father figure, or they just didn't have like different opportunities that a lot of like privileged people would have. In greater area, those areas are usually filled with like Etobicoke, Scarborough, downtown, and North York area. We as a group of people have to come together to end this gang violence in our general area of Toronto. Unfortunately for some, innocent people are being hurt at the same time. In my opinion, what we can all do to help stop youth from joining the gangs would be to target the general bad areas, also known as the hood. Once we target there by funding money into the government homes, not only not only that, we can fund money into learning centers. We can get like basketball courts done. We can get just like any other activities really, just to get kids like doing other things. By doing this, it gives youth an option to do other things such as joining gangs. With no father figures and no proper guidance in households, by targeting this point, we will be avoiding options for kids. A smart way to approach this will be to operate at the youth, because they're usually looking up to older people who have operated in gang culture, therefore being their influence. In conclusion to my presentation, Toronto is large and growing at a rapid pace. The gang culture. We as a community should be doing whatever we can to prevent our loved ones from being a part of being accidentally hurt by gang culture. We spend money on plenty of useless things daily, so why not try